if you're anything like us, using water is, well, it's simple. You turn a tap.
Right, it's automatic.
Completely unremarkable. You don't even think about it. But today, we want to shift our focus away from that modern luxury.
And look at the daily reality for a huge portion of the world's population.
The people who don't have that access and who are forced every single day to fetch water.
That's really our mission for this deep dive. We're unpacking some crucial sources that force us to look beyond just, time spent.
Right.
To really understand the impact, we have to look at the full, invisible costs. We're talking about health burdens, caloric expenditure, and these crushing opportunity costs.
And it all falls on very specific groups.
Almost exclusively, yes.
You know what's so fascinating is the huge historical paradox here. I mean, the invention of robust, pressurized, piped water that happened decades ago, it should have made this whole act of daily water fetching basically irrelevant.
It should have. But instead, because of this potent mix of population growth, climate fluctuations, social instability,
it hasn't just persisted.
It is ballooned into a severe global public health crisis. And a security crisis.
A crisis we've been trying to solve for a very long time.
For decades. I mean, look back. The UN declared the 1980s the International Drinking Water Supply and Sanitation Decade.
The 1980s, that was 40 years ago.
Exactly. And despite all these global initiatives, our sources confirm that well over 1 billion people still lack ready access to safe drinking water.
1 billion people. It's a number that's just staggering, and it feels so resistant to change.
Stubbornly resistant.
Okay, so let's unpack that with some actual data. Who exactly is bearing this primary responsibility? Because the data is very clear that this physical burden is not shared equally.
That's absolutely correct. And we have really robust data on this. We're pulling from the Multiple Indicator Cluster Survey, or MICS.
And that's important because
it's critical because it aggregates detailed household data across 44 different developing countries. So you're getting a true apples-to-apples comparison of the gender roles in this activity.
So what does that MICS data actually tell us? Who are the primary water carriers?
It paints a very, very clear picture of feminized labor.
Okay.
Across all of these countries, women account for the majority, 58.6% of all water carriers.
Over half.
Easily. Men account for 30.4%, and children, and this is worrying, children account for 9.1%.
So we're talking about millions of households where the job of survival is just delegated to women and children.
And it often involves trips that take, more than an hour. Round trip.
What stands out to me there is that men are still carrying about 30%. I might have expected that when things get really desperate, like in a drought, that the men would step in more. But the data shows the opposite, doesn't it? It shifts even more heavily onto women.
That is such an important point. The disparity actually widens precisely when the chore becomes the hardest.
Wow.
If you look just at the households without an improved water source on their premises, so they have to go off-site, the trip is difficult.
Right.
The gender disparity becomes even more extreme. In those households, the average trip is already over an hour, and 2 of every 3 carriers are women.
So the harder it gets, the more it becomes a woman's job.
The social burden is clearly, and you might say irrevocably, feminized. It's just a really deeply ingrained societal expectation.
And that observation takes us right to the heart of this, the hidden costs. Let's move past just measuring time and really unpack the physical drudgery.
And the health implications.
Because this isn't just a casual walk. This is carrying heavy, shifting loads over long distances, often on really difficult, steep terrain.
The physical load itself it's substantial.
How substantial?
Well, the Joint Monitoring Program, that's a partnership between the WHO and UNICEF, they define what minimal daily needs are.
Okay.
And to meet those needs, a water fetcher typically carries a container, walks about 0.62 miles, so a kilometer.
And then walks back that same distance.
Walking back the same distance, carrying roughly 44 pounds of water.
44 pounds. I think we need to emphasize that. For you listening, what does 44 pounds actually feel like when you're carrying it for miles?
It's significant. 44 pounds or 20 kilograms. It's like carrying 2 fully packed airline carry-on bags.
The really heavy ones.
The heavy ones, or maybe 2 large sacks of cement on your head or your back, and doing that trip repeatedly, sometimes several times a day.
The health crisis linked to that specific burden must be horrific. What are the long-term injuries?
Oh, they're chronic, and they're debilitating. You see long-term musculoskeletal issues emerging very early in life.
Like what?
We're talking chronic back injuries, severe neck pain, even changes to spinal curvature, and all sorts of joint injuries that are just strongly associated with doing this for years.
Hmm.
It fundamentally diminishes a person's quality of life.
And their ability to earn a living long term.
Absolutely.
And then, of course, you have the problem of the water source itself, the link to disease.
Exactly. Waterborne diseases are tragically common, and they link directly to contaminated water and poor sanitation.
Hmm.
But what's really fascinating here is the sort of double jeopardy created by the physical act of fetching.
You mean the calories burned?
A high caloric expenditure, yes.
Let's connect the dots here for the listener. How does walking for water actually lead to malnutrition?
It's a zero-sum game for the body. The energy you spend fetching water, hundreds, maybe thousands of calories, that's energy that can't be used for essential functions.
Like growth or immune response?
Or tissue repair.
Mm-hmm.
And during periods of scarcity, like a drought, this creates a massive caloric deficit. It can lead to micronutrient deficiencies and makes conditions like malnutrition and anemia even worse.
So the physical exertion itself is a direct cause of poor health.
It is. It's not just a precursor to getting a waterborne disease. The act itself is a health problem.
It's really hard to grasp that level of physical cost. I saw an example in the sources from Haryana, India, it floored me.
I think I know the one you mean.
Researchers noted that during the summer, women there fetched an average of 23 vessels of water
23.
each day. 17 trips in the morning, another 6 in the evening.
23 trips. Just think about the relentlessness of that.
Yep.
It speaks volumes about the level of physical and mental exhaustion required for a household to just survive.
Day after day. That's beyond comprehension for most of us.
It is.
And what does the research say about the psychological toll? Knowing your family's survival rests on you completing this exhausting task every single day.
The psychological weight is immense. It contributes to chronic stress, anxiety, a feeling of being trapped. The sources sometimes call it a water poverty trap.
And beyond that immediate toll, there's the opportunity cost.
A massive quantifiable opportunity cost. This is essentially uncounted, unpaid work, and its consequences for economic and social development are just severe.
The ripple effects, especially for young girls, must be enormous.
They are. The most obvious cost is education. The sheer necessity of fetching water stops girls and young women from going to school.
It just perpetuates the cycle of poverty.
Exactly. And for adult women, it prevents them from participating in income-generating activities. Research consistently suggests that if you could free up those hours, they could be devoted to augmenting household income.
A direct path to economic independence.
And community resilience.
That's such a powerful connection. Basic infrastructure and basic human rights like education and economic agency. Let's transition from the physical and economic cost to something that's often neglected in these discussions. The safety cost. When a source is distant, what dangers does that introduce?
This is critical. When access is distant, you directly introduce two huge concerns: danger and security.
Right.
We mentioned the JMP standard aims for access within a kilometer. When you exceed that, especially in high-need countries like Mauritania, Somalia, or Yemen, where trips can be well over an hour, the risks just escalate sharply.
So what's the first major safety risk that jumps out?
The first one is often overlooked in water policy, but it's brutally real. Road casualties.
Road casualties.
Yes. Transportation infrastructure in rural areas is notoriously poor. So water fetchers are pedestrians, walking on chaotic roadways with fast-moving vehicles, trucks, cyclists.
And they're carrying these heavy, awkward loads.
Which restricts their visibility and their ability to move quickly. It becomes a serious transportation safety issue. A daily chore becomes a dangerous commute.
And when you think that over 90% of the world's roadway fatalities happen in low and middle income countries.
And that pedestrians are a huge, vulnerable part of those fatalities.
The link is undeniable. A long walk for water puts you at risk just by forcing you onto dangerous roads.
Absolutely.
And the second risk is, well, it's even more disturbing. It highlights the vulnerability of women and children.
It does. This is the risk of assault and attack. Women walking alone or in small groups on isolated paths are, tragically, frequent targets, not just from wild animals, but from human attacks.
The sources mention this specifically, don't they?
They do. Sadly, they note reports of sexual violence associated with the task, citing high-risk regions like Eastern Congo. It just underscores that fetching water isn't just a burden of time, it's a profound threat to personal security and to dignity.
So, when you add up all these immense costs, time, health, lost opportunity, and these safety threats, what does that mean for global policy?
It means the policy implications are clear. We need a fundamental shift in our approach.
How so?
We can't just tick a box saying a water source exists somewhere nearby. Policies have to aim for safe, reliable, and proximate access near the household.
So you're saying if you put in a borehole that's technically improved, but it's still an hour-long walk away,
The public health benefit is effectively negated. Precisely.
you still have the burden of carrying 44 pounds.
You still have the risk of injury, the caloric depletion. You're basically trading one health problem for another. That's not progress.
And the connection to sanitation seems unavoidable.
It's deeply intertwined. If you spend 2 hours to get 1 bucket of water for drinking, you are physically and psychologically unable to use any of that precious supply for, say, hand washing.
Or keeping a toilet clean.
The choice is immediate survival drinking and cooking over long-term hygiene. So water scarcity directly fuels poor sanitation.
What's really insightful from the sources is that this isn't just an infrastructure problem. It's a deeply entrenched political one.
Yes.
There's a strong suggestion that women's lack of political representation is a huge obstacle.
It's a major obstacle.
If the primary carriers, the real experts on the problem, don't have a voice, then water infrastructure just doesn't become a priority for public spending.
That political barrier is absolutely key to understanding the frustrating lack of progress over the last 40 years.
It's about political will.
And budget allocation. If the people bearing the greatest cost are systematically excluded from the decisions, their daily hardship just remains invisible to policymakers.
Which makes the challenge for researchers and advocates very specific.
It does. We have to quantify this unequal burden comprehensively. We need better gender disaggregated data. We need studies that go beyond just time surveys.
So measuring everything at once.
We need to measure time, distance, caloric expenditure, opportunity cost, and the security risks like assault and road casualties all at the same time. We have to create undeniable evidence of the full, brutal cost of inaction.
So for you, the listener, what does this all mean? The next time you see a statistic about water access, the key takeaway is this. The true measure isn't a number on a map.
Or distance on a spreadsheet.
It's the overwhelming physical burden, the daily danger, and the critical opportunities lost. And this burden is placed disproportionately on the backs of women and children globally. It limits their education, it destroys their health, and it restricts their potential.
Which leads to a final provocative thought. If we accept that political participation directly impacts infrastructure, and therefore the health and economy of communities, this raises a question that goes beyond pipes and pumps. What immediate steps could local communities take to empower women, who are already the primary water suppliers, to gain real agency and decision-making power over the infrastructure that literally sustains their homes?
That is the path towards sustainable change.
That's the path.